Well, for more on the complicated situation with the deportees to El Salvador, let's go to immigration attorney Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. Welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Of course. Kate, a really complex legal issue with so much nitty-gritty involved, right, with these flights transferring the deportees, whether they were already in mid-air, the judge verbally ordering them to turn back but not in writing. In your reading of this, did the Trump administration defy the court order?
Well, I'm not actively representing these detainees, so I have not been there for all the ins and outs, and I know what has been deported. I would like to hope that the flight was already in the air at the moment that the judge ordered their deportations to stop, because otherwise it would mean that the Trump administration is actively defying federal court orders, which I think is something that scares us all if we're paying attention, because if and when that starts to occur, it means that our checks and balances in this democracy are not functioning. So it does seem to be at this point that the Trump administration is claiming that the planes were already in the air after the order was entered, but I think we are all awaiting more details, and we'll certainly want to see what the administration does now that the order is clear.
Well, the Alien Enemies Act that President Trump invoked requires that the United States be at war with a foreign power. Are we at war, and how is that legally defined, really?
I would argue that we are not. The Trump administration's argument is that members of the gang Tren de Agua from Venezuela are the alien invaders. I will add that we have no evidence that any of these deportees are actually gang members, and I know of a couple of cases where young Venezuelan men who happen to have tattoos, who are not part of a gang, have been accused of being part of this gang. So I think that's one issue. The second issue is that obviously, members of a small gang from an entire nation does not equal an invasion by that nation, which is what the law from 1798 contemplates.
I think this is a really interesting point, because some might be wondering now, what is the position of a Venezuelan citizen currently in the U.S.? Can they be removed without defense if accused of belonging to the Tren de Aragua gang that President Trump says has invaded the country?
I think it's a very slippery and terrifying slope if the president is allowed to apply this law against suspected gang members from Venezuela. We already know that the Trump administration, through leaked memos, is going to be going after all of the Venezuelans, even those who were admitted legally under parole programs, for example, that some of those people are going to be finding themselves subjected to expedited removal, and that Trump really has a dislike for the fact that Venezuelans were allowed in over the past several years. And so I do think Venezuelans, even the ones who were inspected and admitted, should be paying very close attention, consulting with immigration lawyers, and finding out what other protections they might have available to them, because I don't think it's a safe time for Venezuelan citizens in the United States.
Looking forward, do you think this case opens the door for the White House to act completely unchecked?
Absolutely. I think the use of the Alien Invasion Act not against a foreign nation, when we are not at war with a foreign nation, could be applied against many, many other people. That's one concerning issue. Another concerning issue is if the Trump administration is actively defying court orders and taking whatever actions they want despite a federal judge telling them to do otherwise. Both of these things are things that are really chilling and concerning, and all of us should be paying attention, because even if we're not Venezuelan migrants ourselves, we don't know who's next.
Chilling, because earlier you mentioned, Kate, the checks and balance, right? So where is that? What happens next?
I mean, you nailed it. The federal courts, the Supreme Court has no army. It's 9 justices who have a pen and paper. And if they issue an order, any of the federal judges that the Trump administration doesn't like, and the response to that is, well, I'm not going to follow it, then there goes our democracy in that moment.
A chilling time indeed. Immigration attorney Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, we thank you so much for your time and your analysis.
Thanks for having me on.